Hi, Lionesses. This is Bobby Carlton. I'm the editor-in-chief and publisher of Lioness magazine, as well as the founder of Innovation Women. Today, I'm talking with Nancy Nager. She's the president of the Boston Club. It's a nonprofit organization focused on elevating women to leadership positions. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Bobby. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. Let's learn a little bit more about you before we dive into all the good things the Boston Club has to offer women. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal origin story?
Sure, my personal origin story is long, so I'll try to make it succinct. I actually am a nurse. I'm a registered nurse, and I have a master's in psychiatric nursing, and I started my own company back in 1990. Delivering services, behavioral health services to elderly and disabled patients in a variety of different outreach locations. And over the years have, kind of built on that to provide these services that we felt were both medical and psychiatric simultaneously. And ended up with, strangely enough, a medical billing company, which became one of the biggest growth engines. And I sold that about 3.5 years ago, and really have full circled back now to my original company, which was always in existence, providing these services to nursing facilities throughout and other types of facilities throughout New England.
Great. So all of that culminated in your becoming the 23rd president of the Boston Club. And the Boston Club has a long history. I mean, you guys have been around for 50 years. Is that right?
45. This year is our 45th.
Wow. All right. So long history of civic engagement and supporting women. Can you tell me a little bit about the Boston Club and what you do?
Yeah, the Boston Club is an organization of about 600 executive women. And we're mostly New England bound and more so from Massachusetts, but now expanding, especially with virtual abilities. And we really are and consider ourselves a force for change. We've been very successful in changing the look of the boardroom for women, to add women to those rosters. And we're also our mission really is to advance women into senior positions where we have a voice. And we do have a number of ways that we help women to advance. And we have education, we have networking, we have a lot of support systems that we put in place. And we want women to have a voice in policies that impact women. And I think, as the Boston Club has evolved over the years, we're looking more and more at legislative posts and being on panels for the state so that we can have a voice that, is much more impactful on some of the issues that are specifically for women. And, we have all sorts of affinity groups and committees and task forces and things that make the club, function on a regular basis. And we're there. What differentiates us, I think, is that we're there for the women who are our members throughout their personal and professional journeys. No matter where they are in that particular journey. So we're not just about one thing. I joined when I was younger and I had children, and there were certain things that the club offered me that are different now that, I've been in the club for so long and my kids are grown and have kids of their own.
So you mentioned evolving. You became the president of the Boston Club in the middle of a pandemic and also in a time of great social unrest, the summer of 2020. How has this impacted the organization and your goals for the organization?
What a year, huh? It was challenging, to say the least. I think in a strange way, we really thrived in this pivot. We actually now are doing more programming than we've ever done before. We used to do maybe 2 to 3 programs a month. Now we're doing 2 to 3 programs a week. We've developed a number of different kinds of series, which we've never been able to have before. We're seeing that people are more participatory than they've ever been before. I mean, this is a group of very busy women who can now, from their living room, drop in on any kind of presentation or networking event or Let's Connect or whatever else that's going on. So I think, we became really very agile. And then earlier, before, I would say before George Floyd, and before some of the issues that, kind of were subsequent to that, we had already put together a diversity consortium with other organizations of women, such as NAP for Asian American Advanced Women, for Links, African American, with Alpha for Latinx, with Conexion. And so we started to talk about some of the cross-cultural issues that, I think were very pressing. And, as we'll talk about with the Census report, there's a lot of advancement in terms of gender, but in terms of women of color, we have really not done very well. So there's been a lot of focus on that this year. We're focused on getting more women of color into the club. We're focused on getting more women of color into the boardroom. We're focused on supporting women of color's businesses. So there's been, a real refocusing on not just let's get women on boards, but let's get diversity on boards.
Yeah. And speaking of which, in addition to founding your own company and C-suite work that you had done, you've also been on a number of boards yourself, both corporate and nonprofit. And the Boston Club produces an annual report on the progress of women on boards. How does your own board experience kind of reflect what the organization is offering, and what does it say about women and boards?
I think that my own experience was that we really need to have a voice in decision making. If women aren't on boards, then they can't shape policy. They can't, have an impact on what kinds of issues they're facing. So, in my board experience, I was the only woman on a corporate board. I've been on some nonprofit boards. I've been on private advisory boards. And the more women that are present, the richer the discussion. So what we're trying to do now is get more women from the Boston Club to participate and, look at having a voice in some of these issues. And, recently we were asked by the Mass Business Roundtable to participate in a consortium, a coalition that they've put together to talk about early child care and early child education. And I think it, was highlighted this year with COVID that, the access and the cost and the availability, all of those things have set women back 10 years in their career. And, it highlighted the fact that without this child care issue being addressed, women are really at a disadvantage. And a lot of it has not changed in many, many, many years. So to have a seat at the table where it happens, I guess, is the place that we need to be.
Yeah, you do these annual reports. I'd love to dig down a little bit into those. The Boston Club's census of women directors and executive officers, looking at the top 100 public companies in Massachusetts, and 2020, for the first time, every company on the list has at least one woman director. So work done there. We're all ready to celebrate.
Oh, nobody's celebrating. We're celebrating a little tiny bit, but no, the work isn't done. I mean, one and done is not the answer. And what they say about women on boards. One is invisible, two are conspiratorial, and three are neutral. So we really need, we're looking now at, twos and threes. We have our corporate board committee. We have our not-for-profit board committee. And they look specifically at searches that the community gives us, and we then take that, look for the right fits to, help them to find the board member. And now it's not just about women, as I said, it's about women of color. So we're not done by a long shot. We've got a long way to go. I think women of color are like, what's the statistic of like 1%, 2%, maybe up to 4%, 3 or 4%. I can't remember the exact number, but it's very low. And so we've got a lot of work to do.
Okay. What does it take to be involved with a board? I mean, women are all busy, and especially women entrepreneurs. I mean, should they be seriously considering this something that's such this deep commitment for them, for somebody else's company?
Yeah, it is a time consumer. And to go on a board, you really need to, kind of look at what kinds of time you have available to, because, once you're on the board, you have a commitment and you need to do it. Why do you do it? You do it because of what I said before. You have to be at the table. If decisions are being made, you have to be at the table if you want to make a difference. And I think it's important to make a difference. And if, we don't step up, then we're never going to make the changes that we want. So it's worth the time. I tell people it's definitely worth the time.
So, Nancy, you've talked quite a bit about women on boards. Do you have some specific advice for women who are interested in getting on boards?
Yeah, at the Boston Club, we actually have a corporate board committee and a not-for-profit board committee, and we work with companies and organizations to place women on corporate boards. We do a lot of work in the club, not educating women about corporate boards, how to get on corporate boards, how to be better governance members of corporate boards. And so, I think if anybody is interested in being on a board, they really should learn the whole process, how you get on it, what you do when you're on it, what your responsibilities are. And we spend a lot of time on, matching people to corporations and promoting women on corporate boards. So that's another activity that, if somebody's interested in joining for some education around getting on a board, that's certainly something that we offer.
Great. So, Nancy, what's next for the Boston Club? Who should consider joining the Boston Club and why?
So, the people who should join the Boston Club are people who want a peer group of women. A lot of women work with just men. It's a really nice environment to kind of connect with women in different industries and different backgrounds, and I think that it's a good place if you want to network. It's a good place if you want to promote your business. We have specialty groups that speak to that and allow you to do referrals of business to each other. We have a lot of value that we offer people in terms of, what is it that their goals are? Do they want to network? Do they want a peer group? And, one of the things that I've gained out of this club, which I didn't realize I was going to, was some great friendships. We do a lot of wonderful things together inside the club, but also outside the club. We have a golf group. And, the other night we just did a cheese and chocolate tasting, which was a whole lot of fun. We learned a lot about chocolate and cheese and how they go together, which I never knew that they really did. So, those are the types of people I think, who should join. And where we're going next, I think, is to look down the road in the future to join more legislative boards, to get more involved in politics, to get more involved in policy. And so the Boston Club, stands up for different issues. We're involved with, the child care issue, we're involved with wage equity issues. So things that, are really important to women. If that's important to you, then it's a good place to join and get involved.
And cheese and chocolate.
And cheese and chocolate.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for joining us today, Nancy Nager from the Boston Club. Any last bits of advice for our listeners? We're talking to women entrepreneurs everywhere.
Yeah, last bits of advice. I think when women get together, we have a lot of influence. We are successful, we're privileged, and we need to use that to influence what's happening and how it impacts us particularly. So get involved, do something that helps your community and helps your community of women. So I encourage everyone to find a place and get involved.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bobby. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.